Welcome! My name is Catherine. This is part 3 of sharing my 90s CD collection, and before I get too far with the pop and rock, I want to share a few of my country 90s albums. So I'll be doing C through G today, and I'll be featuring 3 artists and 2 CDs from each artist. The first album I'll show today is Mary Chapin Carpenter, Come On, Come On. She's an American country folk singer-songwriter, and she's from New Jersey, and she performed in clubs around the DC area before signing to Columbia Records. So this was released June 30th of 1992, and this is her best-selling album. Initially, it sold 2.9 million copies, and eventually 4 million. There are 7 singles on this album, and she co-wrote with a legendary country music songwriter named John Schultz. So the singles are as follows. Number 1 is I Feel Lucky, and this was written with Don Schultz. Number 2 is Not Too Much to Ask. It's a duet with Joe Diffie, and this was also written with Don. 3 is Passionate Kisses. This is a cover of a Lucinda Williams song. The Hard Way is number 4. The Bug is a Dire Straits song written by Mark Knopfler. Number 6 is He Thinks He'll Keep Her, also written with Don. And number 7 is I'll Take My Chances. The reason why I mentioned Don Schultz is because he's written many hits, numerous hits. I looked him up online, and I'll give you some examples. He wrote The Gambler for Kenny Rogers. He wrote When You Say Nothing at All for Keith Whitley, which was later covered by Alison Krauss and Union Station. And number 3, Forever and Ever Amen for Randy Travis. And he worked with Michael Jackson as well. So this is a very good album. I love the songs on here. And I did see her in concert at a county fair for the tour for this album. The other album I have by Mary Chapin Carpenter is called Stones in the Road. It's her 5th studio album. It was released October 4th of 1994, and it became her first number 1 album on the country charts. And it reached top 10 on the Billboard 200 album chart, so that was a record for her. There are 13 songs on this album, and she wrote every single one herself. So the singles are number 1, Shut Up and Kiss Me. This was her first song to go to number 1 on the country charts. Number 2 is Tender When I Wanna Be. 3, House of Cards. And 4, Why Walk When You Can Fly. And she won 2 Grammys for this album. The first is for Best Country Album. The second is Best Female Country Vocal Performance for Shut Up and Kiss Me. And when I was reading the liner notes, I noticed that Kenny Aronoff is her drummer, and he was the drummer for John Mellencamp in the 80s. The next artist I'm going to feature is Vince Gill. So I have this album called I Still Believe in You. And it's his 5th studio album, and it was released September 1st of 1992, and he's on the MCA label. And there are 10 tracks on this album and 5 singles. 4 out of the 5 singles went to number 1 on the country charts. Number 1, I Still Believe in You, the title track. It reached number 1. Number 2, Don't Let Our Love Start Slipping Away. This reached number 1. Number 3 is No Future in the Past. It went to number 3. Number 4, One More Last Chance, spent 1 week at number 1. And number 5 is Trying to Get Over You. That went to number 1. So the sales of this album were 5 times platinum in the United States and 3 times platinum in Canada. And platinum in Canada is 100,000 copies, so 300,000 copies in Canada. And I really like Vince Gill. I like his tenor voice, and he's a good guitar player. And the second album I have by Vince Gill is his 7th studio album. This one's called High Lonesome Sound. It was released May 28th of 1996. And this one's different than his other album. It's got more up-tempo songs, and it's more bluegrass because Alison Krauss and Union Station is playing on this album with him. There's 11 tracks and 5 singles. So they're as follows. Number 1, High Lonesome Sound, the title track, went to number 12. Number 2, Worlds Apart, number 5, went to number 5, and it won a Grammy for Best Male Vocal Performance. And then number 3 is Pretty Little Adriana. This was also included in the Grammy for Best Vocal. And number 4 is A Little More Love. This went to number 2. And the 5th track is You and You Alone. It went to number 8. And the sales of this one was platinum in the United States. So, this first album I showed, the songs are a little sad because he was going through a divorce. But for some reason it doesn't make me sad because the songs are just so beautiful and the lyrics are good, and there's choruses too. So those are my Vince Gill albums. The third artist I'm going to cover is one of my favorite of all time. It's John Denver, and this is his Rocky Mountain High collection. This came out in 1996, and I was really excited when this came out. I bought it brand new at Barnes & Noble. It's a 2 CD set with a booklet, a biography about him. And I'll open this up. I like how the discs have a picture of Maroon Bells National Park. And disc number 1 is from 1968 to 1974. It's the beginning of the peak of his career, which was from 1972 to 1975. So there's 20 songs on disc 1, and I pretty much like every one. It starts out with Leaving on a Jet Plane, Rhymes and Reasons, and then Sunshine on My Shoulders is on here, Take Me Home Country Roads, Rocky Mountain High, I'd Rather Be a Cowboy, and then Annie's Song, and Sweet Surrender. I wrote down all the tracks on here just for it to be easier for me to see. So you can see there's just a ton of songs on here. So disc 2 is from 1975 to 1986. And I like listening to the first disc better, but I do like these songs too. So it starts out with Fly Away and Looking for Space. And my favorite songs are Calypso, Thirsty Boots, Some Days Are Diamonds, Some Days Are Stones. And then his Seasons of the Heart album, I like that song, and Shanghai Breezes, Perhaps Love. And the very last track is Flying for Me. That's the song that he wrote for the astronauts that lost their lives in the Challenger explosion. And there were 3 people that were supposed to go up on that shuttle, and Kristen McAuliffe went first. He was number 3. He was actually going to go on the shuttle mission. So when that happened, that really affected him, and he wrote that song. And I really like that song too. And the other album I have from John Denver it came out the same year, but this is an import from the UK. And this came out in 1996. And I got my information for this album. It's actually a rare album. It's re-recording of his popular songs, and it says in the liner notes that he recorded it September 1996 in Nashville, and he was 52 years old. So we know the following year he lost his life in the plane crash. So I really treasure these 2 albums that I have from him. And I think his voice became better with age. And there's some additional songs on here that aren't on that Rocky Mountain High collection. The first one is Dreamland Express. That's the title track from that album. And then number 2, Whispering Jessie. That was on his 1989 Higher Ground album, and that's a song for his daughter. And number 3, Christmas for Cowboys. That was from the 1975 Rocky Mountain High Christmas album. And I've listened to these a lot. I almost have them memorized. And I really appreciate having these in my collection. So those are the artists of the music for today. Please share your thoughts on what I covered today. It's always good to hear from you. I want to say thank you for watching, and I'm going to leave you with an end screen of my trip to Maroon National Park. It was nice being there. It gave me a glimpse, being in Colorado, of why John loved Colorado so much and the beauty around him and what inspired his songs. So take care, and I'll see you soon.